And again, thank you so much for Tori for coming on to today's session. So Tori is okay, right? Just to refer to you as Tori.
Yes, please. Yes, do.
Yeah, thank you. And then so do you prefer questions? Do you prefer folks to raise their hand and to wait until the end? Or do you have points in the middle where you want to have them an opportunity to ask, or what would you like to do?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, I know because I think this is an ongoing thing, so really just having it very conversational is great. I have some things that I have planned for today, but I would definitely be happy to start out with just saying Happy New Year to everybody, Happy Valentine's Day, and just see how everybody's doing, and if they have any happy things to report since we last met in December, and just take it from there.
Sure, sure. So whenever you want to, have the group speak or to share something, just ask them to raise their hands in Zoom, and then I'll be able to assist with the order and unmuting them. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, that
And
sounds good. All
and then
right.
last but not least, do you have a disclaimer for your session today or no?
Or do not.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull up our disclaimer and quickly read it for our seniors, and then we can go ahead and get started. Okay.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you. Yep. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, and thank you. And basically, the WildTech DC Senior iPad program, its owners and presenters offer technical assistance, virtual health, well-being information designed for educational purposes only. You should not rely on the information in any applications or topics made by WildTech, including but not limited to mobile device applications and any social media pages maintained by WildTech, its owners or presenters as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or legal advice. Thank you so much for letting me read the disclaimer. And without further ado, Tori, I would love if you could introduce yourself again. But other than that, the floor is yours. And thank you so much for coming on.
All right, thank you, Alex. Hi, everybody again. So I'm Tori. I'm the occupational therapist that has met with you a few times. I worked at Safe at Home until December, and I'm out on my own again as an OT, but still very happy to be participating once a month with you. And I apologize that I didn't see you in January, so saying Happy New Year very late, but I'm glad that I'm here now. And yeah, I'd like to just our conversations have always been centered around fall risk management and things like that. And we've talked about a bunch of things. So I was just wondering if anybody had any like good, happy news, like anything maybe you've added to your routine or anything that's been sort of like a positive outcome for you since we've last met.
So please raise your hand if you'd like to share anything. And then you are also a co-host, Tori. So if you have a presentation for today, you can also share your screen if you'd like.
I do. Yeah, I was sure. Thank you.
Yep. Go ahead, Anne.
Hi,
And
Tori.
Hi.
I wanted to thank you because I had a fall and I was able to get up
wow.
myself.
Oh,
I had it at night. And I've
oh,
also, my therapist also has me doing some chair exercises, and I found it's very helpful.
oh, I'm sorry you
hmm
had a fall, Miss Ann, but thank you for I'm glad that you're getting some exercises in now. That's great. I'm glad you weren't
Well,
in.
I was sick, and I think I got up too suddenly,
Mm,
and I was weak, and I just went down. But luckily, I was near the bed, and I have a stool, and I was able to get myself on the stool. And after I got onto the footstool, I was able to get myself up on the bed.
Mhm.
great. Oh, good. Well, I'm so
From
glad.
from
Thanks so
your
much.
from your helpful hints about rolling and hip rolling and all that. So thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ann. Thank you.
And Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Really appreciate it. Miss Doris, you have something nice and positive to share to Tori?
Yes, Tori. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you, Miss Doris?
Okay, I just wanted to say how wonderful I feel every day attending this program. It uplifts me all the time.
Oh, thank you. Nice to
And
see
nice
you.
seeing you again.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys, you too.
Thank you, Miss Doris. Really appreciate that.
All right. All right. Well, thanks. It's nice to see everybody. So I thought today, this was my plan for today, to try to make this interactive again. I wanted to review quickly some of the things that we spoke about in the previous few sessions about what some of the risks are for fall. So gonna ask you to actually talk together about that. And then I have some actual, I'm going to call them case studies of people that have been in my life, both professionally and personally, that have fallen recently. And what I'd like to do is like share their stories with you and have you guys be the detective and like kind of figure out what you think happened and what you would recommend that they do. Because I'm hoping that by doing that, you'll be able to help yourself, but also maybe your friends and family if they tell you that they're maybe not feeling steady or they've had falls. So that was kind of my plan. And then depending on how much time we have, I have a video another exercise video to share with you guys. So I'm going to throw it out to you. If you want to start telling me, if you remember from our previous sessions, what are some of the common risk factors for falls? Like what are some things that might be happening that would cause you to fall? Anybody remember any of them?
Don't forget to raise your hand. You hit more at the top right, and then you hit raise hand. So we'll start off with Miss Doris and then Mr. Harold.
Okay, one of the common risk factors when you're getting out of the bed, don't try to get up too fast. Take your time and get up so that you don't fall. And one of the things that you should do, you should keep your cane or your walker. Use that all the time, even in the house, to keep you from falling.
Perfect. Right. So being careful when you're getting up that you don't get up too quickly, kind of like what you said, Ms. Ann, might have happened to you, and to use your device in the house. So that's perfect. Thank you, Ms. Doris.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Then we have Mr. Harold, and then we'll hear from Mr. Frank, who has just joined today, but can also provide some insight. Hi, Mr. Harold. How are you?
Hey, Alex. Hello, Miss Tori. Good to see
Hi,
you
Mr.
again.
Harold. Thank you too.
I like that drinking cup that you have there. That's real nice.
Big cup of hot water. I'm freezing.
One of the things I remember you talked about was decluttering, having a lot of things in your way when you're walking around in your house or any place, watching your feet. And second thing was having well-lit paths as you're walking.
Mhm.
Third thing I thought, oh yes, if you have rugs and so forth in your house, make sure there are certain type of rugs that they don't slide when you walk on them or step on them. It might not be good to have rugs though, but the decluttering was the biggest thing that I try to do even to this day.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harold. So yeah.
Unfortunately, Ms. Doris, I don't use my walking devices in the house. I guess I should do that more. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harold. So yeah, so just to repeat what you said, making sure that their clutter is out of the way. So you have clear paths, you have good lighting. Oh my gosh, you said something else, Mr. Harold. It just slipped my mind. Besides using your device. But do you remember what the third thing was that you said?
Those rugs, the rugs on the floor.
The rugs, that's right, the rugs, right. Right, so a lot of people will automatically say, if you have throw rugs or area rugs, you have to get rid of them. And I think we've talked about this before, but that's not always the case. So if you are not using, if you're not using a walker and you're just walking through your house, you haven't been prescribed a walker, you pick up your feet, you can keep those area rugs down as long as that they're secure, like you mentioned, Mr. Harold, so they're not slipping and sliding everywhere. The edges aren't rolled up, so you can't catch your toes on it. But it's not that they are inherently a bad thing. Now, where they become more problematic is if you're using a walker, that's when they often start getting caught up with your walker and can be more of a problem. But if you have them in your house and you're not using a walker and you're picking up your feet, just making sure that they're secure and there's no rolling edges is great.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Harold. Mr. Frank, thank you so much for coming on to your first session. I know you haven't experienced one of Tori's sessions yet, but what do you think about her question?
I think it's a great question, and I think it's a necessity. To add to decluttering, one thing that I've noticed and experienced is just a simple piece of paper on the floor can cause one to slip and fall. So absolutely, to have clear spaces to move in. The other thing is knowing your body and knowing your weight, your center of gravity is very important. I was a professional dancer for 15 years, and I took, I was an artist, very serious training. So knowing how to move when you feel that your balance is off versus giving into it, if you know certain movements, like a simple step ball change, can prevent you from falling. Yes, there are there are times that are absolutely inevitable that one will fall, but I believe falling is absolutely preventable. And also another important thing is how you fall. That's important.
I agree.
How you would land on the floor versus just giving into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just what I want to add.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You've repeated things even though you haven't been here before. So you've repeated things that we've talked about. So I appreciate that. So besides the clutter, of course, and the paper, absolutely. Knowing how to fall, we actually did some videos on that. So that's really important. And what we talked about was really, if nothing else, protecting your head as much as possible. So trying to, really kind of curl, to put your hands in front, like try to take the weight on this part of your arms. If you have, so you're not extending and not hitting your hip or your head. So I appreciate that. The ball changes, that's a great idea. I don't know if people know what that means, but I know because I'm a dancer, I know what you mean. And being very mindful of your body, though, we've talked about that as well. So being mindful of how you feel, being mindful of the environment, being mindful of, like, if you feel like you're starting to lose your balance, like, what can you catch yourself? Is there an automatic reaction that you have available to you? Like, it sounds like you have plenty of them from your training. So that's really important. But even if we're not trained as dancers, we've talked about just the idea of continuing to work on strengthening and balance, and that will help with your writing reactions and your reactions to a potential fall. So thank you, Mr. Frank. That was really helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Steven. Sorry, Mr. Steven. Thank you so much. Tori, you got a lot of hands up, so you just let me know when you want to move on.
Let's keep going. I think it's helpful, and then I'll go on to my case studies. We can do like 10 or 15 minutes of this.
I love the participation. So next up we have Yvonne. Sorry about that, Mrs. Steven. Thank you. Hi, Yvonne. How are you?
Oh, good afternoon, Alex, and good afternoon, Tori. So good to see you. And
you too.
Tori,
there you are.
Yeah, what's the name of the company you're with?
So it's my own company. It's called Living at Home.
Oh, Living at Home. All right. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to say that very often seniors are on medication that can cause imbalance. I'm not on any medication, but there are medications that can cause some imbalance. So I think that's something to be mindful of when your doctor prescribes a medication. And I was recently in Tai Chi. It was called Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention. It was a wonderful class that I was taking from Hattie Holmes Senior Center. The class was terminated, however, but some of the martial arts, such as Tai Chi and Otago, which is another martial art, it's It has 17 strength and balance exercises delivered by a physical therapist. So you might look into Otago, Otago, and also Tai Chi. There are so many different versions of Tai Chi. And I recently had cataract surgery. So one's eyesight is also very important in terms of preventing falls. So I was very anxious about undergoing any kind of procedure dealing with my eyes, but I could see that with this cataract, I wasn't seeing as well as I should, and especially since I still drive. So I just wanted to share those personal concerns with my classmates. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, Miss Yvonne, you shared everything. So I have to make sure I feel like I have a terrible memory today. So you started with medications, and that is really important. Some of the classifications of medications that research has shown contributes to your risk of falling, unfortunately, are your blood pressure medications. So that's just because, if you start getting, if your blood pressure medications, as you can imagine, take your blood pressure too low, you're going to feel a little dizzy and lightheaded, right? So that's part of that. Anything for mood sometimes can have it. Of course, any sleeping pills, any sedatives, cardiac medications. So there's quite a few classifications of medications that can contribute to your risk of falling. However, I wouldn't tell you to stop taking any of those. What is really important is that you pay attention to any side effects you might have and talk to your doctor about it, because maybe your dosage is incorrect, or maybe the time of day you're taking it is incorrect, or maybe there's an interaction with something else you're taking. So please, if you notice any side effects from any of your medications, it's really important you communicate that to your physician, your primary care provider. You mentioned balance and strength, Miss Yvonne, and I remember you mentioning that Tai Chi class before. And I'm going to, I was looking while you were talking. I don't know if you know that Safe at Home now has a whole fall prevention program in addition to the modifications, but there's a fall intake specialist, Jose Cepillo, and I don't have his direct number, so I'll have to just give you the direct Safe at Home number. But if you call him, I know they're trying to implement that same fall prevention, that Tai Chi program, Miss Yvonne. I don't know how far they've gotten with it, but that's in the works. And it is a great program. It's a program that has been shown to decrease falls, because Tai Chi works on balance, it works on strength, it works on mindfulness. So it's like everything Mr. Frank talked about, like it's exactly that. So, but I do have 2 videos from Silver Sneakers that I'm going to put in the chat that have like Tai Chi elements to them that you can kind of do those on your own as well, even without having that Tai Chi class. So we'll talk about that. And then the last thing you said was vision. And that is absolutely, your vision is another big part of your balance, in addition to being able to see like any obstacles in your path. So you hit them all, Miss Yvonne: balance, strength, vision, and medication. So thank you. And we already hit the environment, which, for that. So we've hit all the big categories. So I appreciate all that input. And I will put those videos in the chat and get the number for Jose, for the intake specialist. But please keep talking.
Oh, Tori, I can connect us offline for the number for Yvonne. So we could do that as well.
Oh, well, I want to put Jose's number in the chat though. So I'm gonna.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine as well. Oh, that's great. That's either way works out as well.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, I'm listening. I'm just gonna text somebody and get his number while you guys are talking.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne, for your very thorough answer. Really appreciate that. Hi, Brenda. What do you think of Tori's question?
Well, I remember. Hi, Tori,
Hi,
and
Mrs.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
From the last sessions we've had with you, I remember you were saying that when you first get out of bed, you kind of wiggle your ankles to kind of, get your circulation moving, and that kind of helps with your balance as well. And also, if you have pets in your home, you just have to be mindful where your pet is so you won't trip and fall over your pet. So I'm happy to say I haven't fallen in years.
Yay.
And hopefully don't plan on fall. And the thing, when I did fall, it was outside. I think I mentioned it to you before. I was outside cleaning up the debris around my house. and missed the curb and fell. And I was fortunate that my son was there to help me to get up because I wasn't able to do it on my own. So I don't do that activity anymore. And I'm mindful in the house, just, wherever I am. And I do use a cane because I have a bad knee and it gives me a fit sometimes. So, but I do the exercise with my feet, my ankles, to try to get the circulation going, and that helps out quite a bit.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad. Okay, great. So you talked about, yeah, sitting at the edge of the bed and doing the ankles for circulation, which is good for
Yes.
circulation, and also keeping the range of motion in your ankles, which is really important for being able to maintain an upright position if you get off balance. Using your cane, that's great because you have your knee that could be a little tricky and give out from
Yeah.
underneath. So you have extra support. A lot of people tell me, I don't know what happened, my knee just gave out, and I hear that.
Yes.
So having that support is always helpful. And modifying your behavior. So if there's something you can no longer do, like a big heavy task, totally fine to ask for help. So I'm glad that you
Right.
said that's okay. And just being mindful and knowing when it's appropriate to ask for help, and that's fine. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your pets.
And your pets. Keep an eye on those little guys. Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Brenda.
Thank you, Tori.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, next up is Ms. Jacqueline. What do you think of Miss Tori's question? How are you?
Good morning, good afternoon, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Good afternoon. My thinking about falls is be concerned about your shoes and your clothing, because a lot of us are, if we're in the home, most of the time we have those slippers on. We have those robes with those with the ties hanging down, and they could be an obstacle if your shoes are not well fitted, or if the soles are slippery, and if your clothing is loose, and it can catch on something and cause you to lose balance. So your shoes and clothing, to me, is a concern. Like, since I'm in my retirement, people say, well, get up and dress up and show up every day. So I try not to be too casual and make sure I have on good shoes when I'm moving about. And in my clothing, if I am wearing a robe, make sure the tie is tied up so I won't step on it, slip on it. And those are the things that I consider that they may cause a fall.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. That's great. Absolutely. Shoes, we talked about that, making sure you have well-fitting shoes that are not slipping off, that have a good non-slip sole, both inside and outside your home. So a lot of people will think, oh, I need good shoes when I'm outside. It's just as important you have them on inside your house as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be the same pair of shoes, but have that same concept. And I'm so glad you said that about the robes and the ties, Ms. Cook, because sometimes I follow people, like I'll walk behind them going up the stairs, and they'll be wearing like long, sort of like caftans or long robes. And I feel like their foot on the stairs, like barely caught, like the caftan like barely misses them stepping on it. And it worries me every time. So really being mindful of long drapey clothing is a really good point. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but I'll bring it up again. I worked at Georgetown Hospital for a really long time, and I have to tell you, I feel like most of the people that I saw for falls there, number one, had been dehydrated and or had a urinary tract infection. So we talked about that. That's really, really important to keep hydrated. But a remarkable number of them also had tripped on their blankets in their bedrooms. So please be very mindful of where your blankets are on the floor, because it was actually pretty amazing to me how many people tripped on their blankets in their bedrooms. So it's kind of the same concept. Mr. Gist, I see about the exercises, so we can totally make sure that we do exercises in these classes going forward for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Ms. Jacqueline, and thank you, Tori, for putting Jose's number and title in the chat. Thank you so much. Yep, and don't forget to lower your hand, Miss Jacqueline. Mr. Stephen, you had something else you'd like to share?
Yes. Since we've been on the planet longer than most people, posture is very important, and gravity takes a toll on us. So when as we age, we tend to, I don't want to say one would tend to lose their posture. So if you keep yourself up, keep your head up, keep your shoulders back, and your chest open, that helps tremendously with balance. And another thing I'd like to say about balance is weak ankles are, besides all the other factors that you have spoken about, a weak ankle is probably the greatest factor in preventing in falling. If you do not have a strong ankle, you will falling is will happen more. So strengthen your ankles, keep your head up, keep your shoulders back, keep your spine lined up straight, and that is one way. Just pull yourself up. That is because there have been plenty of times that I have almost fallen, but because of my extensive dance training, I haven't. I've done the step ball change thing.
Thank you.
And one last thing, I just saw on TV, there was a gadget that's like a hand on like a bicycle hand grip on a handlebar, and it goes into the wall, and it's on a hinge, and it will come down. So if there's a particular area in your home where you know that you're maybe vulnerable to falling, you just pull this thing down and you grip onto it so that you have more help me out, strength or
support, or yeah.
Support. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. So great. Some more great ideas, yeah, that we haven't talked about. So thank you for explaining it that way. So if you think about what Mr. Stevens said, like so think about your base of support, right? So if this is your body and your center of gravity is somewhere towards like your belly or something like that, right? If your head's going forward, it's gonna kind of like, it's just like a lever. Your body's just like a lever. So if you're constantly standing like this, there's more chance that you're going to go forward, right? Because that's like where the weight's taking you. So keeping upright and keeping everything nice and lined up is going to keep you keep you above your base of support. And ankles. We've talked about ankles before. I know I've talked about them a lot too, definitely, because if you have strength and range of motion in your ankles, like we talked about, think about like an old tree versus a new tree. Like a new tree has a brand new tree has all that sort of ability to withstand some wind or some storms because it can kind of just go with the flow, right? But an older tree that's a bit more stuck and a bit more dried out, that doesn't have that flow or range of motion, is more likely to get tipped over by the wind. So your ankles are kind of like that same thing. Like, you want a little bit of range of motion and some strength to withstand a challenge to your balance. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen. We have Miss Denise. How are you today? What do you think of Tori's question?
Good evening, afternoon. I was going to say something about the pets because I have two cats, a boy and a girl, and I have bells around their neck because when I go up the step, well, mostly when I come down the step, the boy cat, he'll start rolling on the steps. And I'll be like, go ahead before you make me fall. So I hold on the rail though to make sure, but he'll still be rolling and rolling. And I said, okay. So I just stand there and then he's standing there. So as I take that step, then I say, go ahead. So he'll go on down the steps. But I think that's important because if you got them bells around them, you'll know where they are so that you won't trip over on them, especially if you have steps in your house, like mine do. So both of them do it, but most of the boy cats. And I like, okay. But and then I wanted to say, I heard you say you drink hot water. I mean, I drink water too with coffee, tea, but I never drink it hot by itself. So I need to try that.
I do. Thank you. Yeah, so I do drink hot water because I drink a lot of water in the summertime, but when it's cold, I can't drink cold water. I just get colder. So I just started drinking hot water and it works well. But yeah, regarding the pets, that's exactly what the literature says, is to put bells on your pets so you know where they are. And I was just laughing because I know cats. Cats, yeah, they'll trip you up. They'll do whatever they
Yeah.
can to cause trouble for sure. Yes,
Mhm.
lemon and hot water, that's a good idea. So yes, putting bells on your pets is the recommendation in the literature, and that's a great idea, just to keep an eye out on where they are, because they can be sneaky for sure.
Yeah, because they'll walk in front of you, and you just like, wait a minute, you're gonna make me fall.
They
They
will. It's
don't
almost like
mean it. That's
they
just the
don't.
love.
I know, I know, I know. They don't realize it.
Yeah,
Thank you
well,
for
thank
sharing.
you for letting me share that.
Yeah,
You have
sure.
a blessing weekend. Safe
You
weekend.
too. So I think we've
Thank
got like
you.
Miss Gloria and Miss Ann, and then maybe after that, Alex, well, I'll move on to the next thing. Does that sound good?
Oh, sure. We've been, wow, the time. I mean, it's felt like forever. But we gotten so many great
Yeah,
stories. It's
absolutely.
wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, y'all. Yep, next up is Ms. Duckett. What do you think of Tori's question about
I,
yep.
I first like to say I really enjoyed the presentation, but what I'd like to add to the presentation is that some of us have cords on the floor, from either appliances or telephones or that kind of thing. Sometimes we have a tendency to trip over those if we don't have them pinned down a certain way. And scattered rugs. There have been times I've gotten my toe caught up underneath the edge of it because it wasn't down, flat like it should be, that kind of thing. And the slippery floor
Mm-hmm.
is one that I experience quite often. If we
Yeah.
don't have something to hold on to, oh boy, that's really something. All righty, and thank you once again for your presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Miss Gloria. So yeah, so tripping, God, I can't believe we haven't said that yet, or I hadn't said that, but you're right, tripping over cords, that's huge. So definitely make sure all your cords are out of the way as much as you possibly can. If they have to cross into your path, make sure you've got something to alert you that they're there, and they're at least taped down or have that rubber thing over them to keep them in place, but ideally they won't be there. And for the slippery floors, I totally agree. I was actually in somebody's house just this past week, and it was on that snowy day, so I took my shoes off to not bring all that stuff inside. And they had wood floors that were so highly waxed, it was like an ice skating rink. It was terrifying for me. It was really bad.
Wow.
So I can only imagine. And of course, the gentleman would sometimes just wore socks, and I was like, I don't know how you do that, because I can barely walk in here on these floors without shoes on. So that is actually really important as well. Thank you, Miss Gloria.
Yeah, the taping down of the cords in our office, we have a big cord from the TV's right in the middle of the room, and there's the chairs, so there's no way to avoid it. So we have literally duct taped the cord onto the floor, and that has, I almost tripped on that cord as well one time, but those things do happen. So yes, definitely the taping down.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Duckett. We have Anne again. Hey, Anne.
I'm just going to make a comment on that new thing that Stephen was talking about. It's like the one that you put in your car, and it fits on the hinge like, so it fits like on a door thing, and it is very. I just ordered a couple, and so I haven't gotten them yet, but somebody else had them at their house, and I especially going over the little the bathroom door, where you might have a little lift there,
Mm-hmm.
I found that it was very helpful at their house. So I've got me a couple. So that
Oh,
that
great.
is a good idea. And the one that goes in the car, it helps you get out of the
Mhm.
car better.
That's great. Well, can you please share with us when you get it, like how it's working for you? So we
I
can.
surely will. I
Okay.
certainly will.
I'll
Okay,
share
dear.
I'll
Thank you.
share the.
It's so glad to see you. And
Thank you. Thank you. I missed you guys in January. I did.
yeah,
This is my favorite day of the month. I'm gonna put a link to that car thing that you're talking about because I know what you're talking about. So I'll put a link.
yeah, and the new one goes on like a hinge on the door. I don't think it's made by the same people, but I don't know. The car
Oh,
thing was given to me, and I put it in my granddaughter's car because I ride in her car mostly, and in my cousin's car. So
yeah,
that was yeah, but
yeah.
they
She's
were given to
really
me.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I just put one of them in the link. There's a whole bunch of manufacturers that make that one for the car, so you can choose any of them. That was just the first one that popped up. But yeah, they're super
hmm
handy to have. That's great. But yeah, I'm excited to hear about that other thing you found. That's really
yeah,
interesting.
because it works on the same basis.
Okay. All right, that
Uh-huh.
makes.
But you just hook it
Oh,
like into the
okay.
hinge part of the door.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, and it keeps you balanced. And I have a step up, a small little step up coming from the front to the inside.
Yeah.
And I really needed that one by the second front door.
Mm-hmm.
And it works really I'm thinking it's going to work really good because like I said, I was at somebody's house and tried it, and they had just gotten it, and I thought, okay, this is what I need at my house.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool. Yeah, definitely
okay.
let us know next month. That sounds great.
Okay.
Also, I put in the link a while ago, and then there's been some conversations. So I didn't want you to miss it. If I can repost it if you want, but I know I showed last time, I think it was last time I showed you a silver sneakers video about mindful walking, which is really great. And it has a lot of Tai Chi principles in it. I'll share that link again today for you. But what I was looking for it the other day, and turns out there was a silver sneakers Tai Chi class. So that YouTube thing I put in there is the Silver Sneakers Tai Chi. It's not the exact same program as Yvonne as the fall prevention one. That's a very specific one, and that Safe at Home will be doing. But this is a similar one. So between those two, you should get a lot of the principles of Tai Chi. A lot of the things that Mr. Stephen was talking about, she kind of goes over it here, although she uses different language about it, but the same sort of principles. Now they're both standing and they both require some like you're standing on one leg. So what I would suggest is just do what you can, because in both videos, before she even gets to the standing on one leg, she does a lot of just weight shifting, and just doing weight shifting is actually very similar, right? I see you nodding your head, Mr. Stephen. Yeah, just learning to weight shift in and of itself can be enough to make a big difference. So do go back to just do the weight shifting part. And if you don't feel comfortable with the one-legged standing part, just don't even worry about it. Just let the video go and jump back in wherever you feel comfortable. They're both about 12 minutes long, both videos, but they have some really, really good stuff in them. So try them out and see what you think, okay? And I have a seated video for us today that's about 10 minutes long. So we have till 2:45, is that right?
Yeah, 2:30, 2:45. So yes, that is, the video. That sounds great. And then of course you'll probably ask the group and their thoughts or reactions on it, correct?
Well, it's a seated exercise video.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll try to save time for that. If not, I'll just share it with you guys and you could do it on your own. It's very simple, very nice one. So what I thought I would do is I'm going to share some stories that I've heard over the last 2 months from people, as I said, in my life. And what I'd like you to do, I'm going to actually tell them to you exactly as it was told to me. So you're going to be the detective here and try to figure out what happened and what would you suggest to this person going forward so it doesn't happen again. Does that make sense? Okay. So the first one, I'm going to be the person. Okay. So this is the person talking to me. An older, this person is 81, this person was 81 years old at the time. So she told me, she said, I was leaving my friend's Christmas party. And I don't know, the next thing I know what happened, I was on the floor. When I saw this person, she had a bruise can you see me from here, from her shoulder, all the way across her chest, like that. And she told me, I can't raise my arm hurts. I don't know what happened. I might have banged the wall. She said, I was walking out the door and and the next thing I know, I was on the floor. So what kind of questions would you first think of? Like, what comes to your mind, or what would you ask? Knowing where she was at a Christmas party and she was leaving, coming out the door. Miss, you monitoring it, right, Alex?
Yep. Okay, Anne, go ahead.
I'm going to be a little indelicate, but maybe she had a little too much to drink.
That's exactly it. Miss Anne got it right away.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but
I thought
I
the
didn't mean
same,
to
man.
sound mean. I didn't mean to sound mean.
No, but you're right. You know, I mean, and it was my mother. So
Oh,
after I
okay.
quoted my mother, and,
Okay.
you know, for my mother, too much to drink is 1 glass of wine, because my mother is 84 pounds.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely too much for her.
Yeah, she had 1 glass of wine and it was too much. And so, and I same as you, I didn't want to be indelicate, Miss Anne, but I said, you know, you really need to start paying attention to how you feel, because she always enjoyed to have a glass. She's never a big drinker, my mother, but she always enjoyed having 1 glass of wine with her friends. Like, that's just part of her social life, right? And I don't think she's noticed, as she's gotten older, that 1 glass of wine affects you differently than it did maybe, you know, like 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Oh, definitely.
Right. Yeah. So I think it was a very unfortunate, but she didn't fracture anything. She just bruised, fortunately, but it was a very eye-opening experience to her about the effects of her 1 glass of wine, and that to be more aware of how she feels if she does drink wine with her friends. So she's made her glasses smaller since that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, since I don't drink that much anyhow, so when I do get a little bit of wine, I just take like maybe a little tiny bit, you know, not too much.
Thank you, Mr. Just. Yeah, it's my mom who, funnily enough, doesn't listen to a word I say, but I think that's.
Well, unfortunately, my mom's gone, so, and she wasn't a drinker either, so, but
Yeah.
she did like occasionally a little glass of wine.
Yeah. And you know, and I think it's okay. Like, I'm not here to tell anybody how to, certainly I don't want to pass judgment about that, or what you want to do, but just to be aware of what, you know, what you're doing and how that makes you feel, is important. So yeah. So, well, that one was easy.
And definitely after you've had a little drink of wine, when you stand up, you make sure that you are on both feet and your head is not going around a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So my thought process was probably she was walking out the doorway and maybe like hit her shoulder on the door frame, and it just was enough to knock her off her balance. Just, yeah, that's my detective. But did anybody else have any other? I don't know for sure. I wasn't there, but there's still some hands raised. Did anybody else have anything else to say about that?
Thank you, Anne, so much.
Yes, and the other important thing, when you falling like that, you have to be mindful of how you fall. Because I fell outside a couple times, not drinking or whatever. And I didn't go to the doctor because I didn't have any bruises or anything. And I kept getting vertigo. And I ended up having brain surgery because I had dried up blood on my brain.
Oh boy.
And thank God it's been 3 years and I'm doing great. So that's another thing you gotta make sure. When you fall like that, if you hit your head and you don't feel anything, you need to get checked out.
Exactly, Ms. Doris. We've talked about that. Anytime you hit your head, you have to get checked out. No matter how you feel, you have to get checked out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ms. Doris. And then Mr. Angelo, you had a response to Tori's story?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that rule of thumb, everybody should always have 3/4 food on their stomach before they drink, you know, because that'll absorb the alcohol that's in the beverage that you're drinking, you know, and it'll keep keep you a little more sober, rather than, drinking on an empty stomach.
Mm,
Just takes its toll really bad. And I've had people that I know to fall down in the street and couldn't get up, and have to be picked up off the pavement. So just be careful.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And it's, as I indicated, my mom's 84 pounds, so she doesn't eat enough. I think. I think.
Right.
So yeah,
okay.
like even a small glass of wine is enough, like you said, if you don't eat enough.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So I've told him my mother. All right. All right. The next story, somebody I met this week. Okay. So this is what he told me. I was walking on Massachusetts Avenue for my daily walk, and I was thinking that I need to get my wife her coffee and I need to get back to do the emails. And the next thing I knew, I was on the ground, face first on the ground. And I was able to get back up. I got into the house. My whole face was bloody. But I remembered that I really had to get my wife her coffee. That's all he told me. What are you guys thinking about that story? Like, what questions would you ask, or what are you suspecting is going on there?
Brenda?
Tori, I think, oh, it's an echo there. I think he probably wasn't paying attention to where he was walking, and maybe there was a kind of maybe a little incline in the pavement, and his foot probably just stumbled. That's how he probably fell on his face. That's what I get from it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Because as he was, I'm literally telling you, as he was relaying the story to me, he was telling me about everything he was thinking. So the first thing that popped into my head too was, that sounds like you weren't paying attention to what was going on.
Right, exactly. That's what it sounds like to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Miss Underwood, what do you think?
I'm thinking that as far as young people are concerned, they're always on their phones. So he could have been on his phone at the time.
That's a good
really
point.
was not paying attention.
That's true. That's a good point. He
And the other thing could be medications.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't take them, or he took them a little later or a little earlier than he usually does.
Mm-hmm.
Timing is important.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, so he's actually 82, so he wasn't on his phone as far as I know, but that's a good thought.
Mm-hmm.
But medication is definitely a good thought as well. Yeah. So what would you suggest, or anything else, like anything else you'd want to ask him, or any suggestions you would have besides, we talked about paying attention, but anything else that comes to mind about this situation? And you mentioned medication.
Be mindful of your surroundings.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, the one thing I asked him and his wife, I said, so I didn't tell you the rest of the story. So he came back upstairs. He was a little still perseverating on getting the coffee. And of course, because he hit his face, what else did he hit? He hit his head, obviously, right? Did not go to the ER, did not get any help for about 48 hours. It turned out he had a pretty good concussion. Thank goodness he did not have a hemorrhage though. So he only just really suffered a concussion, but you really should have gone straight away to the ER anytime you hit your face like that. And chances are, if you're hitting your face, like you talked about, Miss Brenda, it's probably because you've tripped over something and you're going forward. Typically, when people lose consciousness, they tend to go backwards. So if you sort of just lost consciousness, you more likely would have gone backwards, like syncope you'd mentioned, Mr. Just. So when people go forward, I kind of suspect they've tripped over something. It's not a hard, fast rule, but yeah. But I asked his wife, I asked both of them, I said, when you walk, do you always pick up your feet, because if you tend to shuffle, you're more likely to trip on something. And he said, no, I always pick up my feet. And his wife looked at me and smiled. She said, I hear him walking from a mile away. So if you hear yourself walking, and that's an indication you're shuffling, and that's going to put you at a greater risk of falling. All right, any other thing for that? All right,
Mr. Harold, it may be good to have a list before leaving out less thinking.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Mr. Harold in the chat said it may be good to have a list before leaving out less thinking.
That's right. Right. That sounds right. Right. So I'm trying to, instead of having to memorize it and like thinking about that in your head, like just have a list of a reminder list. That's a good point. Yeah. So the last one is a woman who's 56 years old. She told me, she said, I had, so again, we're back to the alcohol, but that's not relevant. She said she had 2 cocktails during the day, but during the day. So she wasn't like, out drinking a lot. She had 2 cocktails over a pretty extended period of time. Earlier in the day, she had worked out. She had gone for a run. Then during the next couple hours, when she was hanging out with people, had some cocktails. And then she had some dinner and some desserts. She called them her cashew bars. Apparently, are pretty salty. And then she went to bed, and she said she woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning, really, really thirsty. She assumed it was because of the salt and the cashew bars that she had eaten. So she got up and went to the refrigerator. She said, all I know is that I opened the refrigerator, I grabbed a bottle of water. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor. And then her partner came in. He said, what happened? She said, I don't know. I'm fine. She went back into the room. She went to sleep. Woke up the next morning with a big knot on the back of her head. So what questions would you ask her? What do you think happened in that situation?
Yep. What do you think, Ms. Doris?
I think the salty cashews probably raised her blood pressure above normal, and she didn't realize it.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, raising her blood pressure. Could have been.
Thank you, Ms. Doris. Mr. Harold, what do you think? What would you ask?
I agree with Doris, but I also think that she perhaps didn't drink enough water before nor after her workout.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Yeah, so the combination, it could have been a combination of both things, really, right? Because when you're dehydrated, that actually does affect your blood pressure. So it could have been a combination of it, the salt. Yes, but that dehydration, and I'm telling you, she's my best friend, who's 56 years old. So it doesn't mean that this can happen at any age. Dehydration is wicked. It's really not. It's not good. It has bad consequences. So
Drink water, everybody. Drink water.
I just saw someone in Zoom drinking their bottle of water, so I love it.
drink.
Harold. Thank you, Mr. Harold. And then we have Miss Carolyn. What do you think? What would you ask?
Did you eat or did you take your medicine that morning or that day? Or should I say, when was the last time you had something to eat?
Right.
And I've always been told that you don't take medicine on an empty stomach unless it's prescribed that way. So if you took medicine and did not eat, that might have an effect on your performance that day.
That's a good point too. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, it could have been eating. It could have been her medications. She takes her for cholesterol, actually. So I don't know the answer to that. Alcohol is actually dehydrating as well. So between working out, alcohol, and the salt, she could have been dehydrated. The salt may have raised her blood pressure, all those things. So really, what's the lesson of the story is like, when you wake up, right, to pay attention. She was so thirsty, she just got up, popped up, ran to the refrigerator, right? She wasn't really paying attention to how she was feeling at the moment. And as with the other 2 stories that I told you, who people who hit their head, she hit her head and did not go to the doctor either. With this big lump in the back of her head. Called her doctor 2 days later, and her doctor was rightfully upset with her. But at that point, they'd ruled out a concussion, so she was okay. But do not drink when you take your medications. Yeah. So yeah. So that was that one. So I think you can see that we all We all do things. We're all at risk for falling just because of the way we live our life, right? I mean, it's not like any of these people did anything wrong, or I'm trying to be judgmental about anything that they did. It's just we just live our life, right? And sometimes you make decisions that affect you, and can lead to a fall at every age. And so just, again, just being as mindful and keeping all the stuff in your head is really, really important.
I think just not rushing anything. I mean, just take, like, when you wake up, just take a few minutes to think about your day or think about what you're doing. I mean, I have to, especially, when, all of us, worked at some point and had other obligations, and that's really tiring. So it's just good to decompress at the beginning and like the end of each day to see what you need to plan for. And that way you're not as like scattered and thinking to know what you need to do the next day, and it really makes everything steady, not up and down.
Right, not rushing. Exactly, right. I've had the experience lately, I have to be honest with myself, of sitting up and getting up to go to the bathroom at night. And I think it was a month or so ago, I started veering towards the right. I was like, what's happening? And so I clearly wasn't paying attention to my own advice. And so now I sit at the edge of the bed, just like I tell you guys, for a couple of seconds to get my bearings, because that was shocking. It was shocking to stand up and all of a sudden be like drifting into my night table. I didn't know what was happening. So it happens to all of us. Yes, most of us don't get if you hit your head, please, especially if you're on blood thinners, please tell your doctor the next day. It's so important.
I see we have a couple of hands up. Do we? Yeah, let's go for it. Angela, any thoughts on the story or anything?
Yeah, well, yeah, I just want to say, and thank you very much for the presentation and all that good stuff. But on what you're talking about now, in the morning, I get up, I meditate. Everybody meditates in different ways, but I find a verse or a chapter of the Bible really helps me prepare my mind for the rest of the day, and putting things in order, so that's the way I do it. So
yes,
I like that. God is good.
Yeah, I like
Thank you.
that. Yeah, I like that, Mr. Angelo. Yes, there's a lot of, besides you sharing that story, and I do the same thing. I meditate like 5 to 10 minutes every morning and practice gratefulness. And I have to say, like, I really do think it makes a big difference during my day. But even if you don't take that time in the morning to have a specific practice, just every once in a while, just take a look outside and notice the blue skies, or notice the clouds, or notice something in your, just really pay attention to what's happening at the moment. And that can really help ground you and take you out of
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Take
Thank
time
you.
for yourself. Every time, everybody deserves to take time to think about yourself and what you're doing, and how
Right.
you're feeling, all that great stuff.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
That just made me think of that, because we have to practice these things to keep going, and to have some kind of balance and meditation in our lives. It does help out.
It does. Yeah.
Kim, hi Kim, how are you?
Hello, Alex. Hi, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. What I wanted to say is, as far as falling can come from many things. It can come from a whole lot of things. It can come from sometimes your eyesight. You might not have see something in front of you and you might trip over it. Or either it could be a case like myself. I have one of my legs is longer than the other. And that means when I walk, it's like I'm stepping, walking from side to side. So sometimes you might need to go to an orthopedic or whatever you call it to get your, those type of shoes where they balance your one foot could be higher than the other. Sometimes it could be like a health issue or anything. It can come from many things. It can come from many things. As far as drinking, you shouldn't be drinking while you're on medication, because all medication says do not drink while you're on this medication. So those cases where those two people fail, I don't know whether they were taking medicine or not, but sometimes alcohol would trigger, some things off.
Yeah, you're right. And it's a hard conversation to have. When I do these assessments with people in their homes, one of the questions on the assessment is, how many alcoholic drinks does somebody have? And that could be a very personal question. And it could come across as me being sort of judgmental about that. And And it's certainly not, I mean, I have a glass of wine too, so it's not that I'm trying to be judgmental, but it is something to really consider because it can interact with medications, it can dehydrate you, it can make you feel a little loopy, like there's all kinds of things that can happen. So even though it's a tough conversation to have, like trying to approach it without judgment, but just saying, are you aware of how alcohol can affect you is something to consider, yeah. You know, I didn't share, Mr. Steven, you mentioned earlier about slipping on a piece of paper, but I forgot I had a fourth case study, but we were running out of time, so I'll just tell you. The same gentleman who had a fall outside, literally, there was a couple, and it was in the house with the ice skating floors, like the the high wax floors. So she's still a working she still works, she's a journalist. She's 77 and she has an office in their apartment. And her habit for the last 50 years of being a journalist was to sort out her papers by placing them in piles on her floor. And sure enough, one of those piles happened to be a folder, like one of those shiny folders. And she stepped on the shiny folder and it went poof, and she went up in the air and she fell on her back and fractured her sacrum, which is the triangle bone at the bottom of your spine. Fortunately, that's not anything too terrible and there's nothing they can do about it. It's kind of like fracturing a rib. You just have to wait for it to heal. So she was still able to walk and she was just uncomfortable, but the same thing, like a habit that she had been doing for 50 years that was never a problem before, has now become a problem. So paying attention to what's on the floor.
Yeah. We have Brenda. Did you want to share something?
Yes, I do. This happened to me about 8 years ago. I went to the Giant in District Heights, and you know those little wipes they put so you can wipe the cart down. So I wasn't paying attention. I grabbed my cart, and I was just coming in the door. And as soon as I got in the door, I fell. I tripped. And it was over those little wipes. I didn't notice it, going in. So, I haven't been back to that store, but, but I mean, you just have to be, pay attention to your surroundings. I didn't use a cane at the time. I was doing good without the cane. Yeah. But after that, I bumped my knee and, So you have to be paying attention to those, stuff that's on the floor. And I had no idea it was there. I mean, the guard came over, you okay? And they had to call the ambulance. I went to the hospital and just messed my knee up. So, but just wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing. So it sounds to me like the commonality of all these stories that we've all shared with each other is paying attention. Like if you really want to boil it down to anything, right? Paying attention to your body, paying attention to your surroundings. That seems to be one of the most important things I think we've come up with today from all the stories we shared. Yeah. Well, we don't have time to do I'm going to post a link to this 10-minute chair exercise video, which I thought was really good. So I encourage you to try to do that on your own when you get a chance. And then I posted the Tai Chi one earlier. I can post it again since we have a lot in the chat. So what I would encourage you is to try any one of these, try what you feel comfortable with in either of these videos. And I can do the walking one as well. And then when we meet back in March, you can maybe share with me what you can share with me what you tried and how it worked. How does that sound? So try any one of those three on your own. And again, with the last two are both standing. So if you're not comfortable with the standing, incorporate what you can. Some of the stuff you can do seated, actually. And maybe for the last two, when she's doing the standing, again, I talked about the weight shifting. If you want to stand by your kitchen counter or by a chair, by your couch, whatever, so you've got something in front of you, maybe just try it. So do it all within your own, with what feels comfortable to you. But take a look at them and see what you think, okay?
Yeah, so make sure to click on the links in the chat. When you click on the link, it will take you straight to that video. You can also hold it and copy the link and paste it somewhere like notes so you can have access to it as well. But thank you so much, Tori. I'm so enthralled, and I was really engaged in your session today, and how knowledgeable you are. And I really appreciate how you kind of reiterated what everyone said and said it again, and had your thoughts as well. And I thought that was very insightful. And I know our seniors are very appreciative of all of your hard work, and they've learned a lot from you. So any closing remarks about maybe just something maybe that stuck out to you today, or just a general message for our seniors before we end?
I don't. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for sharing that. Yeah. I don't have anything else to share. If anybody else does, I'm so glad to see you again. Happy 2024, and yeah, try to do something between now and when I see you next month. And I appreciate you all.
Oh, well, let's all thank Tori for such a wonderful session, and I hope you have a great rest of your
Thank you, Miss
Thank you,
Tori.
Tori.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate the
much.
session.
God bless
Thank
one.
you.
day.
Thank you,
Tori.
Tori.
Bye.
Good
Take
seeing
care.
you.
Bye.
Good
Thank you.
seeing
We
Great
you.
love
presentation.
you. Take care.
Bye,
Love
guys.
ya.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tori.
Have a great day, Tori. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tori,
Guys.
thank you so much. Learned a lot today.
Goodness,
Great day.
Thanks, Alex.
Yes, and thank you so much, everyone, for coming on. So, as usual, during our Tuesdays and Thursdays, we like to share a poll for you all to complete, so you can let us know how you felt about today's session. So let's make sure we're all in Zoom, so that way we can fill out the poll. And once you do, you are free to go. But again, thank you all so much for coming on to today's session, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.